my lovely human, and welcome back to Women When Fueled. Today, we're diving into something a little different. This episode is completely unscripted and unnoted. I had a moment of inspiration, hit record, and let my thoughts flow. So often, we focus on what needs fixing, on healing, on working through the hard stuff. But what if we gave just as much energy on expanding joy? What if we focused on creating more moments of laughter, lightness, and ease? That's exactly what we're exploring today. How to shift from a mindset of constant self-improvement to one of self-expansion. Before we dive in, as always, a quick note. Women When Fueled is for entertainment and connection purposes only and is not meant to replace professional advice or your lived experience. Episodes may include light conversational cursing, which might not be suitable for all listening environments. In today's episode, we'll explore why joy isn't just a byproduct of healing, but a path to it. How to intentionally create space for more fun and ease, the neuroscience behind positive expansion, and simple ways to shift from self-fixing to self-celebrating. This conversation is raw, real, and something I hope sparks a shift in you. Let's get into it. Okay, this is my first attempt at doing an episode fully unscripted, fully raw and real, and just in the moment as some kind of inspiration tapped me on the shoulder. And I want to discuss today, how can we do what so many of our guests have referred to in expanding our joy? What are the practices that we can partake in that help us to extend our laughter, extend our joy, extend our light, instead of primarily focusing on how we can kill our ego or stop our pain or heal our hurts? Because so much of the wellness space is absorbed in healing past traumas and healing. And absolutely, there is space for that. There's legitimacy in that. And there's absolutely a need for it because so many of us carry such big hurts that impact our ability to move forward in our life. However, a really crucial part of the healing process that we don't always talk about is the joy part. The part where you've done a lot of the healing, you've done a lot of the heavy lifting and the hard work. And what tends to happen is that we get stuck in the loop of finding another small thing to fixate on in healing, from the space of healing, instead of considering, with this clean cup, how can I fill it with cleaner things? What beautiful, sparkling, energizing, fueling things can I do to keep the good vibes rolling, you know? And frankly, I've avoided doing episodes from this space of just riffing with what's on my mind because I don't want to waste your time, frankly. And I would like to say that there's no inkling of perfectionism in it, but I simply can't. I have certainly let that stop me, and I want to be as clear as possible. I want to give you the gift of clarity with these episodes, these solo ones for me, but I also want to give you as much impact as possible. So with this first try at just speaking to what's on my mind, I really would love to offer you grace in whatever things that you've been considering trying, whatever new things have been on your heart, but also to ask for grace in this moment because I'm new and I'm feeling really nervous about it, frankly. But a primary piece that is the impetus for this episode is a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And if Napoleon Hill sounds really familiar, you're probably right. Frankly, he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich is such a big hit in this, like the self-development space. It's such a big pillar in that space. It's an old school classic. So many of us have read it or have it on your list to read, or it's your Bible or whatever. And my grandpa, who is a very self-made man, a very hard worker, a very, I think, incredible person, his big hitter book is Think and Grow Rich. He attributes a lot of his success and his mindset to the book Think and Grow Rich, which is incredible. A lesser known title by Napoleon Hill is Outwitting the Devil, and he wrote the transcript just after publishing Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich being a set of stories about the wealthiest, most successful people of his time that he got to have conversations with, essentially. So basically taking these really incredible people and having conversations of what got you here. And so many of them referred to this external being, this source energy, this magic that is both within us and outside of us. So being curious about that, he explored it further, and he looked at the least, air quotes, least successful people, or the people that had the biggest failures, perceived failures. And he went through and was not only curious about source, but also what stopped you from becoming great. You were so close. You were 3 feet from gold. What stopped you? And as he's writing this, he starts to come across some hard times, or he's reflecting on some hard times that he was working through. This actually inspires me to want to go reread it for the third time. But basically, he comes into a couple of hard times around the publishing of his book, Think and Grow Rich, as he's writing the manuscript for this. But essentially, he ends up, whether it's imagined and created this experience or it truly happened, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, but he refers to this conversation with the devil. He refers to this conversation of what stops men from being great. And the devil claims this shortcoming to be his. He claims this to be his work, and that these people become people who are influenced more by darkness than by light. And the great ones in the world are the ones who have transcended that darkness, who have gotten out of that societal rhythm and that societal narrative to become really great. And Napoleon Hill ends up having this very long-winded dialogue, but very impactful. And it's so relevant today. I want to say it was in the 1920s that he wrote this. I'll have to look that back up, but it was so long ago. And so many of the things that were prophesized, if you will, from the devil in this book have become very unfortunate realities in our society. And what brought me to take massive imperfect action this morning in, instead of just writing about this, actually taking action on it, was that there's this concept of hypnotic rhythm in the book. And of course, everything in our world is energy and everything is frequency. And of course, it's easier for a frequency to stay consistent than it is to disrupt itself. And this morning was the first time in a long time that I've just woken up at a time before the rest of my family, as the birds are just waking up, before my family. It's just the first time in a while that my brain has been ready to wake up at an earlier time, which was so great. And I just kind of sprung awake. And instead of going potty and then laying back in bed because it was early, I felt kind of energized. So I opened the windows in my room, and then I made my bed. And then I went downstairs and I opened the windows in the front room and was like, it's a bit early for my coffee. It's earlier than usual, but you know what? I'll try it. And I was actually excited to try doing my coffee at home a different way. And then after I did my coffee a different way, I thought, Julian is still home. My kids are asleep, and it is so sunny outside. I really want some of that sun. So I bundled up and I slipped on my Birkenstocks because I didn't know where my sneakers were. And I took my coffee and I walked outside without grabbing my phone, without letting Julian know what I was doing. Just walked outside and I walked to the end of my block and then I walked back. And as I was walking, all of these ideas were flooding into my mind, of course, because I wasn't distracted. And that's, for me, breaking my hypnotic rhythm. And how those two topics sort of tie together in my mind is that it is against the mold, or it is less common to see people expanding their joy or choosing to focus not only on their gratitude, because so many of us have gratitude lists and different ways that we approach experiencing gratitude in our lives. If you haven't gotten the Gratitude Glow Journal, I would 10 out of 10 recommend it to you, free on my website. I'll link it below. But we all have ways that we try to express gratitude, but how often do we do something to shake up our experience a little bit? How often do we choose to disrupt our frequency, our personal rhythm in a positive way, instead of letting life happen to us and acting in a reactive fashion? How often are we acting in a proactive way and allowing for ourselves to escape the doom, gloom, stress, guilt, shame, resentment, blame cycles that we find ourselves in a little too often, if I'm being frank, to listen to the birds sing, to feel the sun on our face, to be so thankful that you have what you do have, even if it's not where you'd ultimately like to be. If we fixate on what we ultimately want, then oftentimes we find ourselves not having it. It's elusive. And a certain way of manifestation was presented to me this week in my development listening, and it made a lot of sense. So I'm someone that makes a very real effort toward making my vision board every year. I'm someone who really takes this practice seriously, and I get myself in the right headspace. I plan it or I think about what's going to influence my board for weeks ahead of the new year. And so many people wait till January 1 to make their vision board. And I use December as an on-ramp to experiencing my vision board. And I hope in like November or even October to be creating content for you around this practice of mine, because it is so near and dear to my heart. But how often do we listen to the common advice of, oh, we should write our manifestations or the things that we want over and over and over again? We should write that down constantly and constantly be fixating on it and thinking about it and looking at our vision board and trying to transmit it through osmosis into our body. How often do we have this kind of frantic energy around things that we are calling in? But if we were to adjust the thinking around it, if you were to order a pizza from, let's say, Domino's down the street, you order it online, you tell them what you want, when you'd like it by, preferably. They'll probably be a little early or a little late, you never know. But you wouldn't then call the store 3 times, insist on talking to the manager that it's not happening fast enough, or check over and over again, check your email for that, the delivery driver's on the way notification. You wouldn't obsess over it. You'd probably go do a couple chores. You'd probably hang out with your kids or return to the party or whatever it is. You wouldn't fixate on it. You would order your pizza, move on with your life until the pizza arrived. And that kind of hit differently for me. And in that same line of thought, that audio that I listened to suggested a separate audio to listen to, because of course we're always trying to grow over here. And so I listened to that, and this conversation around our manifestations and our abundance branched into a slightly different direction of shifting our narrative to money over people, which of course is something that we'd all say we agree with, like obviously money over people. But often we look at our life, and if it's not our manifestation, if it's not the thing we wanted, if it's not the amount of money or whatever it is, we get stuck in a cycle of expecting them to be something different. And so in a way, we have put money over people, and we've put money over our gratitude. We've given money the power to influence our gratitude and our energy. And if we were to flip the script in that arena, how much value can you provide? How much joy can you spread? How much light can you shine in trusting that your pizza will be delivered? In trusting that I set it aside. I touch base on it every so often just to make sure I don't miss the delivery driver to give him his tip, right? Like we don't want to miss the delivery and have it sitting in our doorstep waiting for us, getting cold, right? Like this visualization, this imagery really drives in every point, I believe. And so I'm really excited to share it with you. But we want to be mindful of the things we're calling in without being obsessive of the things we're calling in. We want to be mindful of the things that we're excited to receive without neglecting the things we already have. And it just hit differently for me this week. So as I had this different sequence, I still was supposed to, air quotes supposed to, have recorded this episode this week, but it just wasn't hitting right. And I was kind of just waiting for the right moment or the right inspiration. And I hadn't done enough to shake up my frequency or shift my mindset for the week to feel the inspiration or to be tapped on the shoulder by creativity to work with it and be a conduit, to be a delivery service for just the right words for just the right person. And I have gotten stuck in a cycle before of really sticking to a content calendar, of really being adamant that what I said I was going to record was what I was going to record, and what I said I was going to publish was what I was going to publish. And sure, that kind of forethought is important for the interview episodes. It's important that I stay on top of those topics and I improve as an interviewer constantly. But as a speaker, just on my own, I'm in a space at the moment where I am not held by any specific timelines. And so I'm allowed to play with creativity in a way that I haven't allowed myself to in a long time. I've allowed rigidity to stop my creative process. So I want to challenge today with this little thought exercise, if you will, the ordering of the pizza, the hypnotic rhythm, the shifting to how much value can we provide while trusting the process. How can we do that? All of those things to be tied together to how can we work on our joy. There's an episode with Jasmine Cosico, Lene Bowie, where she asks the question of how can you extend your laughter? How can you extend your joy? How can you work on your joy? And I simply could not agree more, but I also want to re-emphasize that. I want for my solo episodes to be a complement to what has already been discussed. And I think that almost all of the women that I interviewed for season 1 have hit this point where they've done the grind, they've done the work, they've done the really hard stuff, they've uncovered a lot of things, and they know that they're still yet to uncover specific things. However, they're no longer fixated on that part of their process. They're thinking about how they can have a little bit more fun, about how they can enjoy their life a little bit more, how they can remember the levity they had before they started the healing process, but to be finally experiencing it without a bunch of stuff under their rug, or as I like to visualize it, a dirty cup. Now that your cup is clean, you've done the work to have the clean cup. And now how can you find the most refreshing, crisp water to fill it with? Those experiences, those shifts of rhythm. And I do believe that the only reason that I've been willing to take massive imperfect action in recording this episode is because I shifted both my frequency and my rhythm for the day. And I certainly hope to attract more magic like this going forward. There's a book by Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and it's called Big Magic, where she discusses the energy of creativity and how creativity is a specific energy source in itself, and how every idea just wants to be realized. And that idea will kind of tap on the shoulder of one or multiple people at any given moment, just trying to be made real into the world. And her book basically explains how to work with that energy, how to accept the invitation or politely decline it. And today was one of those moments where, as I was walking, all I wanted to do was get back so I could talk to you about this. And even though I didn't write a script, I didn't write the blog post first to have my notes on the ready, I didn't polish it first. And what had stopped me from doing that before, again, was this sort of fear of wasting someone's time, this fear of not being articulate enough, using too many filler words, using like or so too often, of it not being good enough or worth my time, or you're worth your time, frankly. So with that, I just want to challenge you to not only feel into your gratitude differently, but adjust your natural rhythms. What is one thing in the morning, in the middle of the day, and or the evening that you can do just a little bit differently to kick you out of trance, to allow you to see your world more vividly, more kindly, to see it with a more excited energy, frankly. So with that, I will wrap this up. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have the best stinking day. Go expand your joy. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning into this special unscripted episode. Sometimes the most powerful conversations come from simply allowing ourselves to be in the moment. And I hope today's message leaves you feeling lighter, more expansive, and ready to embrace joy in a new way. If this resonated with you, I'd love if you'd hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who could use a little joy in their life too. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful conversations for this community. Make sure to follow Women When Fueled on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you want more ways to fuel your mind, body, and spirit, you can connect with me on Instagram at itslexbutler or at Women When Fueled, or visit itslexbutler.com. Remember, you don't have to earn joy. It's already yours to claim. Until next time, take care, stay inspired, and let joy lead the way.